I will never get tired of that intro. Man, I love that. I just want to get up and dance.
Please, 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 please don't do that.
Oh, Rob, you never seen me dance. I mean,
You know what? I feel better for that.
You might be pleasantly surprised. I mean,
I don't think so.
I went to Red Rocks this week. I saw Lindsey Sterling and Walk Off the Earth. And wow, what a great show. It's been so long since I've been at Red Rocks. But Lindsey Sterling, a little hard to dance to. I mean, her violin skills are epic, but
she dances up there. You should groove with her.
I know she's an amazing dancer. Like she does all this, kind of Cirque du Soleil stuff. But okay, we digress. Hey,
while playing a violin,
wild. Check her out, Lindsey Sterling, fantastic artist. All right, hey, welcome to the Midsummer Spectacular edition of the Hot Cloud Show. I think this is show number 3. 3 is a magic number. We love 3. With me today, of course, the one, the only, the legendary Rob Callahan. Say hello, Rob.
Hello.
Okay, good job. For all 3 of my cousins watching right now, who like at least one of them works in IT, we all woke up to our phones exploding because the world stopped. Because I guess there was a Microsoft update that blew everybody up today.
Yeah, I think the first one I saw was at like 1:45 a.m. I was sleeping, but that's when the first thing came across.
Well, yeah, what is it? Do they run it off of GMT, Greenwich Mean Time?
They probably, I don't know. Did it hit like Sydney first in that side, or did it was it the UK? I don't know.
That's an interesting detail. We'll have to call Microsoft later and ask them, like, what time zone do they deploy this stuff first?
I had this feeling you're not going to get through on their phone line right now. Just thinking.
Yeah, they're a little busy for sure. Yeah, I don't know how many gazillion systems running Windows these days.
I have no idea.
Not mine.
Good thing we were not on a plane, though.
You got to bring that up, don't you? Like, look, anybody whose flight got canceled today, I feel you. I feel you right here because I have had the worst luck with flights. Rob won't fly with me, or if he does, he knows that we're going to be delayed seriously because, yeah, it's the worst luck.
What was your best one? How many days were you stuck in Boston?
4.
4
days. Yeah, that was an interesting set of circumstances. You had a scheduling system that blew up. You had just bad weather for days and days and days rolling through the East Coast. But yeah, anyway, hey, well, of course, we're talking about CrowdStrike and the Microsoft Windows update. Let's see, affected London Stock Exchange, affected major airlines. Anybody, sorry?
Hospitals too.
Hospitals, anybody running a terminal with automatic updates, suddenly, blue screen of death, right? And that's not good. That's not good when you're trying to check in for a flight or check in for a doctor's visit or, worse, man, if you're trying to get an operation done, boy, I feel for you there.
No, I saw a picture. It was some airport somewhere where every screen that would tell you what was arriving, what was departing, all that information was all the blue screen of death.
Yep. Hey, now the good news is, at least what they're telling us initially was that this was not a ransomware event or a hacker intrusion. This was simply a bad update. But wow, look at the ripple effect of this thing.
That brings up a great point, though. You can plan, but you never know where it's going to come from. So having a plan in place and having ways to recover becomes more and more critical because I mean, there's been a number, I'll use Microsoft, for example, a number of times over the past where a configuration change or a switch flipped or whatever has caused damage, whether it's been to, cloud storage, whether it's been to Microsoft Windows or to that poor pension fund.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Rob, you and I talk about cyber resilience, I think probably every day, right? We talk about the reasons for having good backups, right? A key component, the foundational component of data security. And, while we all tend to focus these days because of the headlines on ransomware incidents and hacking situations, this is one of the things that can happen, right? PEBCAC problem exists between keyboard and chair. Somebody hit the wrong key, put the wrong character into an update payload, and for whatever reason, it got through and into the wild, and oof, blew up
I'm
big
going to
time.
start a new notebook of just Druisms on these acronyms, because every time I talk to you, you throw a new one out there that I like. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Never heard of it.
You never heard of PEBCAC?
No. Oh, wait, maybe you heard that one, but the one you used earlier today, I hadn't heard of that one either.
Yeah, way back, once upon a time. Shout out to Michael Rourke, our head of support. I worked at a help desk. Actually, did that a couple of times, and more times than not, right? The problem wasn't the computer, it wasn't the software, it was the person sitting in the chair.
So we should call that an IO error.
Individual operator?
Idiot operator.
Oh, okay. Ouch. Yeah, I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever.
We kind of pregame this. We always spend at least 5 minutes prepping for the show, because it's very important to make sure we're on the same page or not. You made an interesting point about the ripple effect of this incident and the intersection with AI. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we know this was not a cyber attack. It was not.
We think.
We don't believe it was deliberate. And
could be a supply chain attack. Honestly, it could be a supply chain attack. Let's not count that out. And I have a feeling I'm going to put a little money on that.
Okay. All I know is that CrowdStrike didn't want it to happen because their stock was down like over 10%. So that's an expensive oops. But I was talking about AI because, we talk about AI. We talk about a lot of times when there's an issue with cyber attacks, it's the users that are the problem, the people at the company. Why do you think the rise of AI has, or what was one of the key things that has caused more problems for those same users now with AI?
Email.
Yeah. And what's the difference before AI or Gen AI and after Gen AI?
Well, before AI, you could see the misspellings and the bad grammar, and I wouldn't say easy to spot it, but if you're kind of working in the business, you've had some good training, you could probably spot it pretty reasonably, right? You could be reasonably paranoid. Now, right, AI is writing flawless emails, and heck, you can use AI to go back and analyze previously successful intrusion attempts, like emails that coax people into clicking. You could probably use that to refine your model, make a better, more attractive piece of bait.
It was interesting. I was playing with it a while back, and you create something that sounds really technical, and then you say, okay, rewrite this like what a CFO would say. And they rewrote the whole thing, and it sounded like a CFO. And if you're a person at the other end of that email and you saw this, for example, as an email from your CFO to move money or something like that,
yeah,
you'd think it sounded just like your CFO, because that's how smart Gen AI is becoming.
Right. Well, and you train it, right? You give it the inputs, right? I want you to create urgency. I want you to, create fear, right? All these various triggers, right, that people respond to reflexively respond to. Like they don't want to be fined, they don't want to be have their accounts closed, they don't want to have their social security checks stopped, right? All these various strings, right, that psychologically can be pulled, right, to push somebody to not pause, take a deep breath before they click that link and, unleash the fury that is bad actors in their malicious software.
Well, I'm going to give you
um,
one more thing to think about and make you ponder here. I don't know if I won't name them, but there was a large telecommunication company that just basically said incredible amounts of chat and recorded audio had been compromised by hackers. And you're thinking, why do they have that? And why was it stored?
yeah,
They were using that to train their AI models and not telling the users, us, that they were doing it.
yeah. Well, let's see. How many letters did I get this week notifying me of breaches? I think the count is 2. I think I'm going to start a collection. Actually, I'm going to start like a notebook. Got one from Ticketmaster, letting me know
Mm-hmm.
that some of my personal information was accessed. I'm waiting for the letter from a large telco, of which I've been a very loyal customer for
Mm-hmm.
many, many years. Apparently, they've had a breach where um, text messages, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the content, interestingly enough, right? It's the metadata that was accessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
What number the message was sent to, how long, the conversation lasted, and so forth. But um, hey, here's the good news, right? The good news is we are fortunate enough to work with a number of partners that help people recover from these kinds of situations. Shout out to buddy Brad Lynch. Already put a great post out there on LinkedIn for how Veeam customers can easily recover from this situation. Apparently, the fix is literally a single file, a .sys file. I'm just working off the information I know at the moment. And if you have something like what Veeam offers, and you can just roll back to yesterday's version of your .sys file without having to impact or do a full restore. Wow, talk about quick recovery, back in the saddle. Um, but as we like to say, Rob, right? This all speaks to you got to have secure backups,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And you also have to have defense in depth. You can't rely on one thing anymore. You have to have layered security.
That's right. We probably should promote a little bit of Wasabi here, since this is the Wasabi Hot Cloud show. Um, Rob, you do this for a living now, right? This is your bread and butter as solution manager for cyber resilience. Tell me what Wasabi does to protect our customers' data.
Yeah, we have a layered approach, which is a lot of layers and a lot of features, including a unique one, which we'll talk about
Easy
to
to
help
use,
protect.
but multi-layered.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and we have, even coming up in our next generation of our products is sort of a checklist. What it'll tell you if there's something you forgot to do or something that we recommend you do, which is huge because, you have a lot of technology, a lot of programs, a lot of applications and stuff. And so having a checklist, showing you where there's potential vulnerabilities or things to look at is going to be, I think, very important to people in the IT space who get overwhelmed with all the things they have to keep track of. So, like you said, simple to use is huge. But everything from encrypting data when you move it in transit and when you have it at rest, it's encrypted. We have things where SSO support to single sign-on to make sure you have the authorized users, but we layer on top of that MFA so that there's a secondary check to make sure if someone was compromised in one way, that the MFA through a different method should hopefully protect against someone spoofing.
Yep.
We have the feature S3 object lock, for mutability, because that's huge. In a backup environment, you don't want someone to be able to go in there and change, delete, encrypt your files. And that's traditionally the sort of what they do in a cyber attack. And so having that object lock where it can't be changed, it can't be deleted, it can't be encrypted becomes huge. But one of the final ones that's even more important is that cyber criminals are not dumb. they're always innovating to the next level. So what they've been doing that we've seen is if they compromise, let's say, a storage admin's account or a backup admin's account, and they go in and let's say they shut down the backups and they try to delete the stuff that's on-prem and stuff. They also want to go after what's in the cloud. So you can't do that recovery, let's say, like after the event today. And so what they have been doing is saying, well, I'll go after those backups. Well, if you've taken the proper steps and the things we recommend, you've made those immutable. And a lot of our partners, for example, make it easy to leverage that immutability in Wasabi.
Yep.
One button, check it, and every time you back it up, it's immutable. And you can set how long that it's immutable for.
Right.
But if it's immutable and they can't get at it and they can't delete it and they can't encrypt it, they can't hold you for ransom as easily. So the next thing they're going after is, well, I've compromised the storage admin's account, for example. Let's say the cloud admin. You know what? I want to see if they have some cloud storage there, and I'll just delete the whole account. And so we've introduced this great feature called MUA, multi-user authorization, multi-user authentication, depending which way you want to use the A. Someone on this call besides
don't get me started on that. Let's just talk about what it is. It's great. It's dual key missile launch. I think that's the easiest way to describe it.
What it is you as an account owner for the Wasabi account can designate 3 additional security people within your company. And we highly recommend that those people not be in the normal chain of your command, that they maybe be someone in legal, someone in the HR office, someone in a different group that's not normally in charge of backups. And when an account request to delete an account comes in, they all have to agree to delete it, or even a bucket level 1. And we'll continue to innovate there. And what happens is if everybody doesn't agree, it doesn't happen.
Right.
And 2 things are great out of that. 1, we've protected your data from a cyber attack so that someone didn't try to delete it by deleting the account. But 2, now you have a notification that someone tried to do that and it wasn't approved. So now you can start doing your due diligence, a part of your sort of your NIST framework stuff, to go in there and look for where the attack came from, how deep and broad and wide it was.
Yeah. And that's, we'll save that for another time. We'll do a deep dive on the NIST framework, because I know everybody out there like me is just enamored with the NIST cybersecurity framework, probably has a copy on their desk. All right. So wait, hang on, Rob. Let me see if I got this right. All right. So you have to get past single sign-on. You have to get past MFA, and you have to have compromised multiple accounts that are not necessarily all part of the IT team to authorize the deletion of an account. That sounds like a pretty deep set of features to protect not only the data, but to protect the account.
And you have to do it in a really short time frame, because if you don't respond, you automatically deny that thing. So if you have those 3 other people, there's a lot of work involved, which doesn't mean it's 100%, but it means that someone's going to probably go look elsewhere for an easier target.
Right. What's the cost for this?
It is free.
Free.
And you know what? I'm going to put another plug in, because we talked about today with a lot of our partners, you could have rolled back your environment using our backups to get back to a known good state.
Right.
When this event happened. But what do you think you should be doing before an event happens, Drew?
Updating your resume?
No. Before it happens, there's something else. It's a thing called tests.
Oh, yeah. Testing. You should test your backups.
Yeah. And no other great thing about Wasabi.
That's expensive. Like, downloading data from the cloud is very, very, very expensive. That's the F word, fees.
If you were to look at the traditional hyperscalers out there, you would see on average that almost half of a company's budget for cloud storage is caught up in fees. And it's not just fees for the API calls. It's not just fees for the egress of that data. It's, in some cases, it's also fees to make it immutable. So to protect your data, you actually pay a fee for immutability.
That's crazy.
But with Wasabi, it's all free.
No
Object
fee.
lock is free and egress is free. So you can do that testing to make sure that when an event occurs, there's no surprises. You can check the validity of your backups. You can check the plan itself. You can check the people that are involved in the plan, and you can dry run it. And we highly recommend you do that on a frequent basis.
Yep. No, I mean, yeah, I agree completely. And we talk about this a lot in our cyber resilience conversations. It's one thing to know that your data is secure, that your account is secure. It's another to do the work and check the integrity of that data on a periodic basis, and you know exercise your playbooks, exercise your run books. I think my favorite story, I tell it all the time, so sorry, bear with me, is don't have all the same people run the exercise. Okay, take different people who maybe don't get as many laps around the track on the recovery, and put them in the driver's seat. See how well they do. They're going to find problems with the run book. They're not going to intuitively understand it because they didn't write it. Right? So, yeah, absolutely. Run those exercises and don't do it just once a year. That's this is the beauty of having free egress, of having no API fees. You can check that cloud data as often as you can make the time, and you should. I'd say at least once a month at a minimum, right? To make sure that you understand what your data recovery process is, right? Keep it sharp. Keep the knife sharp.
Well, this is another great benefit too. We didn't talk about it. Is Wasabi is very cost-effective cloud storage. I'll use that term. and the value of that is in another way that you don't always think about. You can store more for longer for less. And why that's important is if you look at cyber attacks today, for example, they are injecting the malware weeks, months ahead of when they actually execute it. So you may have to go back much farther than you expected. And if you look at your pricing and it costs you money for egress, and it costs you for object lock, and it costs you for API calls, you're apt to say, my budget's getting tighter. I'm going to store less. I'm going to store it for shorter amounts of time, and I'm not going to test it. And with Wasabi, because you don't pay those junk fees, as I call them, talking to the telecommunications space, you can also test, but you can go back and store it for longer, so that if you do have to go back 6 months, you have a copy and it didn't break the bank.
Yeah, kind of like Spirit Airlines, right? You got to pay for a seat cushion, a bathroom token,
Air.
Yeah. Would you like some oxygen on your flight? We can work with you on that. I think there's one other thing we forgot to mention, and this is one of our updates, right, that we wanted to cover today. So we work with obviously a lot of backup vendors that support object lock. Love it. Now we're starting to see folks going direct to cloud, right? They're putting the primary backup copy in the cloud, and then perhaps putting a second or third copy in another location, another bucket, ideally in a different location. And we want to let them know that you can now replicate locked objects with 100% metadata integrity, so that you don't have to necessarily copy from the source. You can put that first copy in Wasabi, use our replication capabilities, and all you're going to pay for is the additional capacity that you use for that replicated copy. You're not going to have to pay any bandwidth, ingress, egress from other places, right? Easy peasy.
That makes a lot of sense, because as we learned, a region can be unavailable. So having a copy in a different, let's say, storage region, one, let's say the US, for example, you could have one in Oregon and one in Virginia. So if all of a sudden the East Coast has a big power outage, you can get to Oregon and get that data and know that it's the same data that was in Virginia and it's still protected.
Yeah. Fun fact, climate change seems to be having some impact on our weather. If you've seen the heat and the storms lately, and there's 3 grids in North America, right? East Coast, West Coast, and Texas. So the smart money says put one copy on one grid and one copy in the other. You'll always be able to access it. Of course, you got to probably have a generator at your own space. Make sure your systems are up and running. That's a different story. Well, we'll
Yeah.
we'll do a full DR conversation with some of our DR partners down the road. All right, Rob. I think we've covered quite a bit today. It's Friday. I'm sure folks are wrapping up their lunch right now, at least on the East Coast. I'm thinking about what I'll have for lunch today. All right, here's a question for you, Rob. Ease us out of this. Favorite sandwich?
Oh, favorite sandwich. I have two. One is if you're on the West Coast, you know of a place called Togo's. And the number
That's a blast from
7
the past.
is my favorite sandwich there.
Number
The
7.
turkey and avocado. It is just the bomb.
Okay.
But here we have a chain of Italian store places do like Philly cheesesteak kind of places. And I know, don't hold it against me. I'm not a Philly cheesesteak fan, but they have an Italian with the marinated onions and the great pickles and the layers of meat and the wonderful, Philly bread. And oh yeah, now I'm hungry too.
See, I'm crushed, Rob, because I thought you were just going to snap back with double, right?
See, it's a hamburger. That's not a sandwich.
Oh, all right. Well, that's debatable, I guess. But okay, we covered a lot. Again, for folks who maybe they're just waking up, I doubt it. I hope not. Big news today: CrowdStrike update related to Windows, crippling
The
Windows
world.
systems. Yeah, around the world. Talk to your backup vendor. We know you're all using backups in some shape or form. Talk to your backup vendor. I will guarantee that they have a solution for you to some extent, whether it's a quick rollback of a single file or set of blocks, or if it's a full restore, right? A lot of people very busy today, probably going to be very busy throughout the weekend. And make sure your cloud storage vendor, right, has your back covered, right, in with aspects of physical security, in aspects of data security, and in aspects of account security.
And run your playbooks and test.
Run your playbacks and test. Says, all right, I'm Drew Schlussel. This is Rob Callahan. This has been the Summer Spectacular Hot Cloud Show. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all on the flip side. Have a great